So the Colorado Buffaloes had a massive matchup against the Nebraska Cornhuskers, and it was a game that I think Colorado should have probably won, but it was a game that they clearly were not ready for, especially in the first half. The Colorado Buffaloes lost this game probably within the first 3 touchdowns that Nebraska scored, and I think that kind of took the air out of the building, and I think Colorado recognized really quickly the mistakes that they ultimately made, and I also think there's some issues with the play caller, and that's kind of where we're going to start here. Watching that game, one of the things I recognized right away was that the play calling and the scheme and just the game script that Colorado wanted, to me was off. Right, coming in playing a team in Nebraska, a team that's a solid football team. Right, let's not overlook Nebraska. So Colorado's playing a pretty solid football team in Nebraska. They came in and their game plan was that we're going to throw the football right away. And I'm not opposed to throwing the football, but to come out on the very first drive, 3 straight passes, and then essentially you're punting the football, to me did not make sense. Because Nebraska took that punted football and they drove right downfield and scored a touchdown. Shedeur Sanders throws a pick six. Nebraska scored 28 points in the first half, and they scored nothing in the second half, and I think that's a positive you can take away from this game. I know you don't want to take things like that away because at the end of the day, you lost this game, but I do think that if Pat Shurmur is able to either fix or be changed out, and I don't think it makes sense to change him out, I don't think that's the right thing to do here, but if Pat Shurmur can do a better job play calling, designing a game plan going up against Colorado State coming up here, the Buffalo should be able to beat Colorado State, but it's going to be, it's going to come down to that game plan essentially. Now I want to show you guys exactly what I mean by that. If you guys look at the advanced stats when it comes to the Colorado Buffaloes, one of the things you're going to notice right away is the usage that Colorado has is so damn easy and simple. And the thing with, programs like Nebraska and, just top tier programs, is you can pretty much take the usage that a team has and you can pretty much figure out the plays and concepts they're going to run depending on what's the situation essentially. So check this out, right? So Colorado here has basically 4 packages that they use, right? They got the 20 personnel, which is basically 2 running backs, no tight ends, 3 wide receivers, and that's the package they mostly use. 79 of their plays this year have been the 20 personnel. Then they got the 21 personnel, 27 snaps, and that's basically all Colorado does, right? This other stuff can be really written off as just like goal line, short distance situation. But with that, so you got 2 packages that are mostly being used, but when you break it further, when you actually get into, for example, the 20 personnel, you can see the guys that are going to be out there, right? The 2 running backs, the only 3 wide receivers that have played in that package. You can also break down the route concepts and the design, and you can start figuring things out. You can even take it a step further. When they do put a tight end in the game, you see the exact tight end it is. They've taken 27 snaps in, with the tight end essentially, 2 running backs, 1 tight end, and you can essentially see the package that's out there. You see the 2 wide receivers, right? You know this right away. So when the Colorado Buffaloes get into that 21 package, which is 2 running backs, 1 tight end, you know that Travis Hunter's coming off the field. You know what Colorado is essentially trying to do. And to me, I can just tell you, they're going to try to run the football, right? They're going to try to run the football. So it's basic stuff that other teams are able to kind of figure out. And to me, that's on Pat Shurmur. You got to do a better job as a play caller. What you're running on the offense side is not working, right? Or what and here's the thing, you can go back to that North Dakota State game, and although Colorado did beat North Dakota State, you saw issues on the offensive side for sure when it came to the play calling, the play design. There were definitely issues with it, and I think against Nebraska, those issues were seen even more. And, the offensive line is not perfect, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later on, but essentially these packages are impacting the offensive line play as well, as is coaching. We'll get into that here in a second. But what I want to see more from the Colorado Buffaloes is I want to see more packages. Instead of just coming out in the 20 or 21 personnel most of the time, come out with 4 wide receivers and, put 3 receivers on one side and a receiver on the other and, flip it. And, if it's not 31, or if it's not 3-by-1, switch that and let's get 2 tight ends into the game. Let's get a fullback into the game. Let's do certain concepts different than the 2 packages. But the thing with personnel is NFL teams, college football teams, defenses in general, care more about the personnel because the personnel tells you what the team is going to do. When you bring in 2 tight ends, you're going to run the football. When you get smaller, you're going to throw the football. When these 3 wide receivers come in, you're going to throw the football. When Travis Hunter comes off, there's a 49% chance you're going to run the football. All right, little things like that are giveaways. And I feel like the Colorado Buffaloes haven't done a good job on the offensive side. And I feel like teams have been able to kind of shut it down because of that. Now, Deion Sanders was asked a little bit about what he thought about Pat, and to keep in mind, this was right after the game. And he had some interesting words. You know, he said Pat Shurmur has done a wonderful job. I'm not going to go there whatsoever. Pat has done a wonderful job of putting us in situations, but we have to want that. We have to run the ball. You know, we have to let those guys salivating like, coach, let's run, let's go get it. So we're going to get to that point. So essentially what Coach Prime is saying is that he thinks Pat Shurmur has not only done a wonderful job, but the guys, the players on the team have to want to essentially make what he's calling run. The thing is I think Coach Prime saying this, you know, he's going to support his coach, obviously. I think Coach Prime also recognizes that one of the issues with the Colorado Buffaloes is they're not running the football enough, right? They're not consistent running the ball. The packages, right, are kind of giving it away of when it is a run versus when it isn't a run. To me, that's on the offensive coordinator. It is up to the offensive coordinator to design a scheme and system that keeps guys guessing. You know, you should be able to come out in a 21 personnel and run the same plays that you would, you know, if you had 11 personnel out there, if you had 12 personnel out there, you should be able to run the same exact plays, but it doesn't look like Colorado's doing that. Now, I do think that there's some issues with the offensive line as well. I do think the offensive line is a solid group of guys. I think they can have a lot of success. I think the offensive coordinator is not doing a good job protecting the offensive line. And I think there's some issues with the offensive line coach not coaching these guys as well. And let's talk about what that means essentially. So Phil Loadholt has to do a better job as an offensive line coach, right? To me, when I look at Jordan Seaton, right, I look at this guy, he's a freshman coming in. You know, you're essentially asking the offensive line to 5-man protect, and then you're essentially saying Jordan Seaton on half those plays will end up being in a one-on-one situation with a guy that's 3, 4, 5 years in college. And it'll work a lot of the time, but the thing is, when you start running games, when you start running stunts and twists, when you start bringing corners off the edge, you know, Jordan Seaton's a freshman. He's played high school football last year, where mostly, you know, high school teams aren't doing stuff like that. The thing is as a team, when you got a guy that's 4 or 5 years in college running stunts and twists, a freshman's not going to be as good seeing those things. And to me, that's when an offensive coordinator has to make sure there's tight ends on that side. He has to make sure there's chip help on that side. Now, if you want to come out in a 5-man protection and you're trying to get the ball out quickly, that could work, but Shedeur Sanders is not getting the ball out quickly. Right? There's plays where there's windows of opportunities he's not getting the ball out. And that's not on him. You know, I think a part of that also comes down to the spacing and the concepts that the offensive coordinator is designing. But you also got to always keep in mind, you know, as a quarterback, you know, does he have the potential to reset the protection? Or if he sees something, can he reset that? Can he bring a guy in? Because some coaches will not have, you know, those elements designed within the offense. I'm sure Pat Shurmur does, right? He's a solid coach. He has, you know, the most, you know, he's had success at the highest level. But to me, the basic stuff that you want your offensive line to do, this guy's not doing that, right? So to me, I'm not sure where the disconnect is. I think the offensive line coach does have a small part of it, right? Because you have to be able to coach these guys that pick up and process games. You have to be able to have these guys see blitzes. And then at some point, you know, these guys just got to go out there and actually, you know, physically in one-on-one situations win their blocks, right? At the end of the day, you know, you can tell Tyler Brown or Justin Mayers, you can tell Khalil Benson, you can tell these guys what they have to do. But at the end of the day, these guys got to go out and actually do it. They got to actually execute those blocks and those plays. And I felt like Colorado's offensive line struggled. But again, I also think a big part of that was because Nebraska did some things on the defensive side that Colorado just wasn't ready for it. I think that's on coaching. But I also think, you know, not only on the offensive line coach, the offensive coordinator has to do a better job as well, right? So I want to emphasize that Pat Shurmur has to do a better job as a play caller. You cannot overlook the fact how much impact an offensive coordinator actually has on a football game. All right, the designing, the spacing, the concepts. You know, if you're designing a play, let's say you call a scissors concept towards the left. right? Let's say your slot wide receiver is going to run 15 yards and then, run a corner towards the sideline. The receiver on the outside of that is running a post. Maybe he goes like 19 yards before he hits the in break part of that post. The thing is you need like 2.5, 3 seconds for those routes to develop. And if the defense knows that, hey, this is what comes out of this formation, they can just blitz you, or they can make an adjustment. Maybe they run a game. Maybe they simulate pressure. And as a coach, you have to recognize those things. And I will say, Nebraska did not score anything in the second half, so it was a good adjustment on the defense side. And then obviously Colorado scored 10 points in the second half, but at the end of the day, you can't make adjustments at halftime. It doesn't work like that anymore, right? The NFL has evolved. College football has evolved. You have iPads on the sideline. You have play cards, and some teams have printers on the sideline printing plays. You make adjustments drive by drive now, right? You don't do that halftime stuff anymore. Every drive you're making adjustments. To me, getting down 14-0 after the first quarter, you got to put points on the board on the offensive side, and I just felt like it wasn't a well-executed plan on the offensive side. With that, I think Shurmur has to commit to running the football more, and not only just running the football. I don't know if it's too much shotgun, if that's the issue. I don't think it is. I think you could run out of shotgun as long as the guys up front are able to kind of do their jobs. But I think running too much gap could also be an issue, right? Colorado on their 29 run plays have called 26 gap runs, right? Or power run concepts. To me, power's easy and it's efficient and it makes sense. But I also think zone is the future, right? Gap could be shut down by you just blitzing gaps, right? Teams have designed these ways to shut down gap plays. That too, if you're going to run gap, run duo, right? Duo is the best gap scheme, in my opinion, right now. Run duo, get those double teams on those defensive tackles, climb up to the second level. Just be more creative when it comes to the run game, right? I prefer zone, and I would like to see more zone. I'd like to see more end arounds. I'd like to see more pre-snap motions. I just want to see more, right, from the offensive coordinator. And I feel like, Coach Prime has to be able to get that out of his coordinator. And then Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter, Jimmy Horn, these guys just got to come together and kind of get it done. So let me know what you guys think, man. What do you guys think in the comments below? Do you guys think this offense is the issue at this moment? Because a lot of people do think it's the offense. And, although the defense did give up technically 21 of those 28 points, I do think that the offense has to, let's be honest, this team is built with, hey, we're going to spread the football, we're going to throw the football, we're going to score 40 points a game. Right? That's the mindset that Colorado has. They don't have the mindset that we're going to run the football. I do think they need to continue to try to run the football to just keep defenses honest. But I think the offense is definitely letting the defense down at this point. There's a couple of defensive guys that have stood out to me. We'll probably talk about that in a different video. But let me know what you guys think, man. Drop a comment down in the comments below. Thumbs up, subscribe if you're not subscribed, and I will see you guys next time with another video.